engineering faculty. He brought 12 crore grants from TQ. I must say our institution have achieved several milestones under his dynamic guidance. Professor Tiwari research interest is diverse area of fiber optics and photonics. He published several dozen of research articles, review book chapters in well-renowned journals nationally and internationally. I am very pleased to say that currently Professor Tiwari is in charge, Honorable Vice Chancellor and officiating Registrar of the VVS Purvanchal University Journal. In closing remark, please join us to welcome Professor Tiwari to this international webinar. Sir, I request you and we are grateful for your kindness to giving us time despite of your very busy schedule. Thank you, sir.
Should I start? Thank you, Dr. Nitesh. I must congratulate the organizers, Professor Ajay Dwivedi ji, Professor Rajkumar ji, Dr. Nitesh Purohit, and all his team members for successfully organizing this international webinar on impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy, challenges and opportunities. It's a very good mode of engaging the academia in the benefit of society, the benefit of economy, and in the benefit of the participants, concerned students and all. At the outset, I must welcome Professor Nageshwar Dubey ji from Addis Ababa Science and Technology University of Ethiopia, Dr. Ravindra Tripathi ji from MNNIT Allahabad, Rasmi Ranjan, Founder and Director, Bhutan, Dr. Shailendra Singh, University of Gambia, Dr. Rameshwar Dubey, Liverpool, John Moores University, Liverpool, UK, and all the organizers on this very important occasion. We all are aware about the disease and the wings it has spread on us all globally. Things are still around the globe. In India, also, situation is worsening day by day, but under control. All walks of activities, every kind of things, assignments are hampering, and very especially the academic institutions, because we all know that here is interaction between a teacher, a professor, and students, group of students, a class of students. So we can't undermine the basic principle of keeping social distancing and accepting the norms, guidelines that are issued from time to time by the authorities in this country, not in this country, rather all over world. But simultaneously, when the disease is spreading all through the globe, we find that at one end it has started having completed the round circle. Things are improving in some parts of the globe, other parts it is spreading still. But in particular context of our country, things are very much under control, and our success rate is almost 50%. So that shows the enthusiasm, responsibility, awareness, and concerns of each and everyone involved in this process. Obviously, when the things stand still, hands are joined, mind has stagnated. All this has direct impact on economy of the country. And once economic situation of a nation gets disturbed, it has direct impact on social well-being, And in the particular context of this COVID-19, it has been observed that the worst sufferers are our low income group people, our laborers, our daily wagers, and very especially those who work for a day, earn out of their labor on that particular day, and then their bread butter is decided by what they could have earned at the end of the day. So things are closed, market is closed, factories are closed, workers have no job, and over and above all this, the problem that has arose due to this COVID-19, the health issues. So this very timely and contemporary that this international webinar has been organized by my eminent faculty members of prestigious Veer Bahadur Singh Purvanchal University, Jaunpur. This will prove a milestone in the academic arena of the university, and I hope, I believe that the stakeholders will benefit uh, a lot by these academic activities. I extend my congratulations to the participants and good wishes for the success of this webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for sparing your valuable time. We know that you are quite occupied with administrative activities of the university. Still, you have spared some time for our webinar and your kind presence. Next speaker ready with us is Mr. Rashmi Ranjan ji. I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Rashmi Ranjan to all of you. Indeed, I am very short of words to introduce such a great personality who is with us, and he has got so many feathers in his cap. I think I will not be able to do justice with the entire introduction, but just to give you a brief idea, Mr. Ranjan is a certified trainer and consultant from the National Innovation Foundation. It is an autonomous body under the Department of Science and Technology of the Government of India. Mr. Ranjan has multiple facets to his personality. He's a trainer, he's a philanthropist, he's an innovator, educator, and author, all coupled in one. I mean, we rarely find this kind of personalities coming with so much of experience and academic and industry experience alike for the benefit of the participants. Mr. Ranjan has been equally accepted by the participants from education, corporate, and government sector because of his personality, communication, and quick adaptability to the industry challenges and requirement on the basis of highly acknowledged diversified qualifications on national and international level, along with the business acumen, which is benefiting trainees to the senior management level in any organization. He has been associated with a trust which was created under the government of Jharkhand in the BS city. This trust is known as Surya Veena Adarsh Niketan Trust, July 2010. He has been associated with the trust as a founder and trustee member towards eradication of illiteracy, cancer, unemployment, while motivating women empowerment, safe transportation, and environmental protection. In December 2016, he has worked towards a unique project in the name of Udan, which was launched by him from the city of Gorakhpur in the eastern Uttar Pradesh with a mission of change management for all, change at your own doorstep, which is India's first program of its own kind, meant for everyone from farmers to the top management in any organization. This program guarantees radical transformation across people, process, and systems. And within 2-3 months of conducting this training, some consulting program within the premise of the client itself, it was a very, very win-win model. Mr. Rashmi Ranjan has been widely appraised and covered by leading newspapers like Amar Ujala, Hindustan, Pradeepam in the North and South India alike. He is an author of 2 books which are published on the title Debacle of Life, A Journey of a Futurist, and the other book with the title A Crush of the Underdog, A Fallacy Uncovered. He's running his own blog by name of savantindia.blogspot.com. He has got a YouTube channel. I can possibly share the link with the participants in the chat box. You all can visit. Mr. Rashmi Ranjan is an engineering graduate in information technology from the very first batch of reputed college Triple IT Kolkata, which is Vishwa Bharati University. His continuous reading and learning enthusiasm has earned him several national and international accreditations to his name, and mentioned below, which is the prime factor for strengthening his abilities to assess performance of his clients in a better way and suggest innovative solutions. He's an MBA, BTech, PG certificate in project management from IGNOU. He has a Six Sigma Green Belt certificate, Sigma Yellow Belt certificate, Six Sigma White Belt certificate, Certified Google Analytics Professional, Certified E-Governance, Aware Citizen, Certified Marketing Manager, Corporate Finance Certification from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, Certificate of Accomplishment from the World Bank for successfully completing the certificate in public procurement. He is a proficient in French language, and he has done an HP certification in social entrepreneurship, inventory management, and social media marketing. In his 15 years of career, Mr. Ranjan has worked for clients like NIIT Technologies, iGate, NESS USA, Intra IIT, Interglobe Technologies, CMC America, and it is a whole list of companies. I mean, he has been felicitated with number of awards 2 months only. Indeed, we are really honored to have such a great speaker with us. Now I request Mr. Rashmi Ranjan to please proceed with his address for the benefit of the participants. Mr. Ranjan, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sachin Agarwal, sir, for giving a detailed insight into my profile. I'll just share my...
It is very much clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, namaskar to the Reverend Vice Chancellor, sir, to the Office of Vice Chancellor, sir, in charge of the office, Sri Professor D.V. Tiwari, sir, Professor Chief Guest for this international webinar, Professor Nageshwar Dubey ji, Convener Professor Ajay Dwivedi, sir, Organizing Secretary Dr. Rajkumar ji, and all the other members of the organizing committee, to all my fellow coveted speakers from across the globe, and last but not the least, to all the participants and the viewers of this international event. I, Rashmi Ranjan, founder of Project Udan, would like to thank both the Department of Financial Studies and Department of Mathematics of Veer Bahadur Singh Purvanchal University for organizing this very important international webinar on impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy, challenges and opportunities. Now, before coming to my presentation, I would also like to extend my heartiest gratitude to all the Corona warriors across India and the globe who are tirelessly fighting against this dreaded disease as a great service to the mankind. Dear all, not long back, when the world around us was chirping with the euphoria of a progressive today for a better tomorrow, when the world economy was gradually moving towards a new synergy amidst the developing and developed nation, when India was in the focused mode of planning and action towards realizing the mission of $5 trillion economy and becoming a global powerhouse by 2024-25, then all of a sudden the global economy was hit hard by this pandemic COVID-19, originating from one particular city and soon engulfing the entire world economy to an extent which still continues to suffocate all of us every day. Today, when we are gathered here through this technological innovation for this very important webinar, we should be assured now that this is the new normal, I repeat, new normal across the globe, post-COVID-19 pandemic, where mankind has to bring certain strategical and operational changes in their system for survival. In the wake of this global crisis, uncertainty in the world economy led many firms to reassess their business models. Rather than relying on global supply chain, an increasing number of firms invested in robots, which prompted a renaissance of manufacturing in industrial countries. Coming back to the Indian context, which was struggling for the desired growth in the last 6 to 7 years, has seen a major setback. As per the recent World Bank report, India's economy will shrink by 3.2% in the current financial year due to COVID pandemic and series of lockdowns. However, getting growth back mission as pronounced on 2nd June by the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji at a CII event marking their 125th year is majorly towards creating an Atmanirbhar Bharat in reality by including these 5 qualities to get back our growth trajectory. First, intent. Second, inclusion. Third, investment. Fourth, infrastructure. And fifth, innovation. Now let me take you through my presentation in order to understand it better. COVID-19 crisis impact. Am I audible to everyone while I'm sharing the screen?
Yeah, you are audible, Mr. Rashmi.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so when there are 4 agendas which I would be covering in this presentation. The first one is analysis. Second would be case studies to understand how some of the corporate houses are bringing innovations in order to fight this recession due to post-COVID-19 lockdown. Then what are the challenges? And finally, it will be the opportunities. So when I talk about the analysis part, let's go quickly through the analysis. Like Kiranas are in crisis, disruption, and these are tough to reverse actually. This is what the FMCG is very feared about, because India has about 10 to 12 million small retail outlets selling grocery and other fast moving consumer goods. But a large number of them are fragmented and located in the hinterland. 6 lakh Kirana outlets may have closed during the lockdown. The stress is also felt in the mobile sector, that is in the handset sector. All India Mobile Retailer Association has estimated that close to 60% of the 1,50,000 stores selling smartphones haven't opened after the sale of non-essentials was allowed. Coming to the luxury real estate and products, which have also stopped since the lockdown began, because around 55% of the respondents felt that conspicuous consumptions will be replaced by conscious consumption. Now, this is the line I want to mark it. Like, conspicuous consumption will be replaced by a conscious consumption. Majority of respondents believe that the pandemic is likely to alter the luxury consumers' behavior, and 45% of them feel that this is perhaps going to be the biggest challenge for them to tackle. Coming to the retailers market, we see that sales they are finding that sales are 45 to 50% of pre-COVID market, as sentiments have gone down and store operations have been impacted. The demand has come down and they are now meeting only 25% to 30% of the usual sales at a store level as compared to pre-COVID during February. On a year-on-year basis, retailers are saying that business is 30 to 40% of last year's same period. So that is the kind of analysis we can see in the first slide. The second slide quickly is the 4 phases of the lockdown from 25th March to 31st May, where we can quickly see that the kind of measures which our central government has taken. I have not covered the initiatives taken by the state government at their level in order to prevent pandemic and later on to resume or trying to bring the economy on the track. But I have talked about the kind of funding like world largest food security scheme for 800 million, or Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, or Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, the kind of, where we are free cylinders we are given. So it all involves the kind of investment made by the central government in order to save the, the poor, the lowest strata of the society. The EPF, where the contribution of both the sides, like 8 million employees, was being taken care of by the government itself. So PM CARE, then there was central government 17,287 crore, that is 2.4 billion US dollars for different states. So state government received this kind of grants, this kind of support from the central government. The Ministry of Home Affairs also gave 11,092 crore, that is 1.6 billion dollars for the state as a relief. Also, and in the second phase of the lockdown, where the RBI also announced 50,000 crore, that is $7 billion special finance to NABARD, SIDBI and National Housing Board, NHB. Now changes have also been made to FDI policies, agriculture and horticulture activities to remain fully functional for the second lockdown. So as you are seeing, that on one hand, where the corona was engulfing the world economy, India as also was on one hand trying to prevent its people from this pandemic. On the other hand, certain recovery measures were being taken on a stringent level by the central government in tandem with, in coordination with the state government. The partial lift of restrictions was taken place from 28th April, that is during the second phase of the lockdown. Even the Asian Development Bank, ADB, gave 10,500 crores to India. Various zones, you know, in country was divided into various zones in the second phase, green, orange, red containment area. And as per the zone, economy has been opened up. From 4th May, when the country moved into the third phase of the lockdown, because when we want to understand the opportunities and challenges, we need to understand the kind of efforts which has been put by the government of India from their end in order to have the less disaster, less stress amidst the whole kind of pandemic after effect being faced by the people across the India. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Japan, requested cooperation for resuming the activities by Japanese company in India, because Japan has around 1,400 companies in India. Prime Minister also took a meeting with the chief ministers and he asked them to come up with plan for resuming the activities. That was something very important, a hint that, okay, now the government wants the economy to be back and they want the state governments to take command of it. So the Prime Minister emphasized the need to start reopening the economy in the third phase between 4th May to 17th May. It was very clear that the Prime Minister is now very, very focused towards bringing the economy on the track. So coming to the economic package announcement, 20 lakh crore, that was the very important thing, economic package, Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is something which was announced. $280 billion, that is rupees 20 lakh crore, which comprises of 1.7 lakh crore from the previous government package and the RBI 5 to 6 lakh crore. So which is like 40% of the entire package. Okay, 20 lakh crore ka, it is the 40% which was from the previous government as well as the RBI decision of 5 to 6 lakh crore. And the definition, the very important thing, now the definition of MSME has changed, has been revised. Collateral-free loans and bank guarantees have been, have been announced. For non-bank lenders, a liquidity scheme and partial credit guarantee scheme has been announced. One nation, one ration card scheme was emphasized. Operation Green, now that only included tomatoes, onions, and potatoes in the agriculture sector, was now extended to all fruits and vegetables, cereals, edible oils, oil seeds. Okay, so Matsya Sampada Yojana was announced, farm gate infrastructure was announced. So that is how, moving to the final phase of the lockdown, RBI allocated funds for Exim banks and extension to SIDBI, and domestic flights resumed from 25th May. So this is how the entire economic decisions, very important economic decisions, were taken during the lockdown, which really helped us now to see a better future tomorrow when the unlock started from 1st June. So when economic situation, if we talk about 53% of the business have specified a certain amount of impact of shutdown due to COVID-19. This is the FICCI statement. Okay, by 24th April, unemployment has increased to 19% within a month, while reaching 26% unemployment across India. This is the research by Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, and around 14 crore Indians have lost their employment. So, more than 45% of the household across the nation have reported an income drop as compared to the previous year. Now, various business such as hotels and airlines have cut salaries and have laid off employees. Revenue of Ola cabs went down and by like 95% in March, April, resulting in 1,400 layoffs. Now, it is estimated that the loss to the tourism industry was 15,000 crore. That's a very big amount, 15,000 crore by March and April alone. Live event industry. So 3,000 crore loss to the live in the events industry. Venture capitalists, they have gone down by 50%. Indian economy is expected to lose around 32,000 crore, that is $4.5 billion every day during the first 21 days of the lockdown itself. Okay, this is the equity ratings. Government, on the other hand, can only spend 1.3 lakh crore, that is $18 billion to fight the impact of coronavirus, while at least 2.15 lakh crore is required as per the Bloomberg's economics. Okay, and former CEA, Chief Economic Advisor, Mr. Arvind Subramaniam has said India would need a $10 trillion, that is $140 billion stimulus to overcome the contraction, the after effect. Now, rating and GDP, if we just talk about the rating of the economy, the leading, some of the agencies, what they have rated, India's fourth recession since CRISIL has said that it's the India's fourth recession since independence, the first since liberalization, and perhaps the worst to date is here in the COVID time. Moody's Investor Service, on 27th March, Moody Investor Service has revised its estimate. Previously, it said the India's GDP growth would be 5.3%, which has, for 2020, which has now come to 2.5%. As per the Fitch rating, also the India's growth would be only limited to 2%. And India Rating and Research has said for financial year 21, estimate would be 3.6%. This was all before the economic package was announced by the government. World Bank report says on 12th April 2020 that it is expected to grow around 1.5% to 2.8% for financial year 21. These are, again I repeat, these are all the speculations made by the leading agencies before the economic package was announced by the government. International Monetary Fund, 1.9% GDP growth they have projected, okay, which was highest among the G20. And Confederation CII 0.9% to 1.5% for financial year 21. But as soon as the Indian economic package, various numerous agencies started downgrading their GDP prediction. It went down like minus 5% by ICRA, minus 5% by Goldman Sachs, minus 4.70 by State Bank of India, and minus 5% by Nomura. Now, let me take some case studies, because these are all the analysis part, the financial analysis, economical, social analysis in COVID time. But now, how are some of the innovative companies fighting against the corona recession, and how are they going to overcome, which can be a real case study for other industries to follow. So I have taken 6 case studies, one from manufacturing for Inox India, from e-commerce Amazon, fashion industry Style.me, FMCG Dabur, retail industries I have taken the example of Canterbury, and from hotel industry I have taken ITC Hotels. So if I talk about Inox India Private Limited, manufacturing industry, the major challenges being faced by the manufacturing industry right now is small and medium enterprises are consolidating the labor using, and they are facing the labor challenges right now. So what they are doing is, in this challenge, they are consolidating the labor using innovative incentive schemes and even redesigning assembly lines to tide over a labor crisis brought on by COVID-19 pandemic and resultant migration of jobless workers. So in case of Inox India, what did they do actually? So because in Inox India, which operates its 3 factories in Gujarat, in Silvassa, Kalol and SEZ, they have opted for labor consolidation after facing shortage of welders and skilled fitters for manufacturing pressure vessels and related equipments. And what does Deepak Acharya, CEO of Inox India, has to say? He says, at our Kandala and Silvassa plant, we have 30 to 40% workforce from other states where we anticipate shortage of manpower for critical applications. We will be reallocating staff, reallocating staff from other plants, especially skilled workers required for critical applications in fabrication. So in such a scenario, what is advisable for the manufacturing industry? Efforts like productivity improvement via workflow and time and motion studies, multi-skilling through training within industry are more relevant now than ever. So this is the advisable for manufacturing industry, because they are having the labor shortage right now, and that is the biggest challenge for them. With 50% staff and labor shortage, you have to now manage the entire supply and demand. Coming to the e-commerce challenge, delivering only the essential items like groceries and medicines were allowed during the lockdown, as stated by the government. So only the essential items were allowed by, even for the e-commerce company like Amazon and Flipkart and so many. So how did Amazon overcome this? It is close to 2 weeks now since the government finally allowed all goods to be sold online in all three zones, red, orange and green. Characterization of essential is very ad hoc, and that it changed from customer to customer. So what did Amazon say? What is essential, that customer will determine, because medicine might be an essential commodity for a customer, while food grain might be an essential commodity for someone else, or maybe a vacuum cleaner may be an important essential for someone else. So as per the Amazon, this is what is the definition of essential actually. Amazon India is seeing a high rate of growth in new customers trying its platform for essentials during the pandemic, while existing users, especially Prime subscribers, are shopping more. So they are seeing the upgrowth. They are seeing the growth actually. Okay, as per the India head for Amazon, Mr. Amit Agarwal, it is now expanded its grocery service, and they have started a grocery service now. See, Amazon Pantry Store. So what I want to say, during this time of crisis, they have come out with an innovation. They started something online called Amazon Pantry Store, significantly to more than 10,000 pin codes across 110 cities, while they had previously only 3 cities where this was there. So you see, from 3 cities, they grew to 110 cities during this lockdown. This has been done to cater to consumers looking for more essentials to be delivered at their doorstep via online shopping. It is close to 2 weeks now since the government finally allowed all goods to be sold online in all 3 zones, red, orange and green. And essential is a very ad hoc. This is the word I want to repeat here. The essential is a very ad hoc word. Okay, Amazon had invested over $6 billion. See, Prime Minister talked about intent, inclusion, investment, infrastructure, and innovation. So those words I want to make you understand through this case study out here of Inox India, and now with Amazon, that they have invested $6 billion in building its online commerce business in India already. Okay, and is seeing a surge in demand for work from home equipment, personal care, and home and kitchen appliances as consumers spend more time online for work and stay indoors during the lockdown. So, you know, there is a new demand of commodities now from the previous what Amazon was selling on its platform. Rise in demand resulted in the company creating 50,000 new temporary positions in its supply chain and delivery network. See, it's creating job now, 50,000 new temporary positions. Apart from consumer, it also is seeing a dramatic increase in the number of sellers signing up on Amazon India. This is clear indication that business realizes they need to supplement their footfalls with an online presence if they are to make sure they can serve customers. So even the sellers are now choosing Amazon as a platform, even the small sellers. Okay, company has onboarded 5,000 local shops on its platform, and more local shops are coming online amid the virus outbreak, even to serve in their local catchment area amid a drop in football. That's like a game. Okay, so what do we learn from this? Need to supplement their footfalls with an online presence. So you need to emphasize more on your online presence. Okay, if you are a small business owner or you want to expand your business, go for your online presence, social media, website, etc., or app, etc. Invest on that. That is the new normal now. Coming to the fashion industry, so I take the example of Style.me. While the challenges being faced by the fashion industry right now is trial rooms at brick and mortar stores are possibly the most vulnerable hotspots, and sellers cannot possibly disinfect each item. So what did this company do? Did actually. The company co-founded by Miss Meghna Saragoi, okay, Fashion Tech and other digital specialists are catalyzing disruption. The word is disruption in fashion industry through technology, through digital specialization that is changing the space faster than a season summer trend. You know, there used to be a season summer trend. So now through this digitization, through this fashion technology, the disruption is there in the fashion industry now. Globally, companies such as Zoor, New Order, and Audrey are digitizing wholesale and e-commerce experience with virtual showrooms, catalogs, and 3D imaging. Okay, so this is now the new technology, the new normal we are talking about. Indian brands are witnessing a similar shift. The phones being ringing for Miss Meghna Saragoi, co-founder of Style.me, a tech solution that caters primarily to jewelry companies. Most of our clients, 6th or 7th generation jewelers, have traditionally been secretive about jewelry catalog. But but COVID-19 has changed everything. So even the clients are now accepting this new normal of technology digitization. It is much easier to sanitize an iPad on which people can virtually try on jewelry rather than every single piece after it's tried on. So contactless selection and try-ons will be the new normal in the fashion industry. Okay, so this is for the fashion industry, and her business has seen a 150% increase in inquiries. See, we are talking about recession, and I'm talking about businesses who are seeing the 150% increase, 200% growth. So this is the best business month ever as per her. Meghna, this is her best business month ever. So remote working, digital draping and trials, this is how the fashion industry would now look forward to doing that. Moving to the FMCG industry, and what are the challenges? There has been a huge downfall in revenue due to supply chain blockage during COVID-19 lockdown. And I'm talking about Dabur, the giant in the FMCG industry, and how they are actually innovating. Since our healthcare category is moving very, very fast in case of Chyawanprash, the growing rate is almost 400%. This is the statement of Mr. Lalit Malik, CFO Dabur. Growth was on track till February, and Dabur were ahead of other FMCG companies. However, in March, due to the sudden lockdown, there was a supply chain blockage and they were not able to invoice which was due, even in case of seasonal goods like juices, glucose, etc. That caused a decline of 14.6% in the India FMCG business. So that was the reason for the decline of 14.6% in India FMCG business, because due to the blockage of supply chain, they were not able to invoice. Now, April has been full lockdown, but the healthcare sector, being a supplier of essential commodities, in the middle of April, there was a slow opening, and also with the launch of sanitizer. So you can see with the launch of sanitizer, Dabur has gained momentum and things may have been much better now for them. So that is the new normal for them, sanitizer industry. Now, what the question is to what extent have operations resumed across all segments, and when do they expect it to be business as normal? So the business will be at new normal. See, it may not be normal. When we are talking about normal business now, it will be all called new normal, and normal is an outdated word now. Though all manufacturing units are open now, they are working at 60 to 70% capacity. And as far as the supply side is concerned, with regard to the CNF as well as to the distributors, bearing and few areas which are in the red zone, where there are restrictions with regard to supply, other categories including rural have returned to normal. So rural area is what they are now focusing. Now, to what extent have operations resumed? Now, first of all, business, okay. Second, e-commerce. Now they are using the e-commerce because it is in the demand, and they are fully utilizing this platform now. Okay, so even Dabur is now focusing on e-commerce. And the question asked is, do you want, what is the near-term priority for Dabur? Do they want to get growth back and compromise on margins, maybe giving more discounts or freebies, or would they say growth will return, but I will not compromise on my margin? This is very important for the FMCG sector to understand. So first of all, it is very important to have healthcare products like Dabur manufactured to be made available to people at large, because that is a need in the country right now. Therefore, they focus to have all their products like Chyawanprash, Tulsi Drop, etc. made available to the people, as these are all immunity boosters. So they want their product, first of all, they are not thinking about profit margin. They are first of all focusing that their products should be made available on the retailer self actually. Second, on the hygiene and sanitizer front, Dabur, because that is the new area where Dabur has evolved during this COVID pandemic lockdown. So Dabur is focusing to reach out. When volumes are affected, there would certainly be pressure on the margins. For that, they have undertaken a very strong cost saving initiative they have started a project called Samriddhi. Okay, so where they will be making their business more effective, okay, by cutting. Finally, coming to the retail industry challenge with Canterville, the challenges is with 50% staff strength, maintaining social distancing between the customers and employees, no air conditions and no trial rooms is making the customer experience a chore. So adhering to the guidelines issued by the central and state government, as well as with the permission from local authorities, Canterville India has, which is the leading apparel brands, reopened all its exclusive brand stores in the orange and green zone across the country. All the stores were rigorously sanitized before restarting the business, In addition to the protocol set by the administration, the brand has also rolled out a standard operating procedure to ensure the well-being of both staff and customers. While opening the stores is critical for the revival of the economy, we would like to reiterate the fact that the health and wellness of our customers and employees are of paramount importance to us, and we would not compromise with it in any way. That is what Mr. Deepak Bansal, Director of Cantabile, has to say. So what are the measures which Cantabile has taken in order to boost the economy and also to revive its business? Special training is being conducted to encourage everyone to follow hygiene and safety advisory. Staff working at the store have been urged to use private vehicles while commuting. They would have to go through thermal temperature check every day. Wearing a face mask has been made mandatory for store staff, and contactless method for greeting has to be practiced. Sanitizers have been placed at all entry and exit points in the store. In order to promote social distancing, the stores will operate with 50% staff strength with staggered days. Floor marking have been made to ensure a distance of 1.5 meter between employees and customers, with a defined number of customer occupancy at a time basis the store size. Customers will be encouraged to use digital contactless payments, and swiping machines will be sanitized before being given to the customers. Finally, the brand has allowed the use of trial rooms. See, come on, they are using the trial rooms. However, the clothes tried by the customers will be kept in separate boxes for 24 hours and will later be sanitized. So this is the practice they are doing. Finally, coming to the hotel industry challenges. Due to COVID-19 lockdown, hotel industry has been worst hit because of the health and hygiene concern for the staffs and customers. Fixed operational cost with no other existing source of generating revenue has made the hotel industry suffer for existence. So I will take here the example of ITC Hotel, what they have done, how they have come out with the solution. ITC Hotels had tapped into the food and beverage takeaway model across the country recently. The chain said the association with Swiggy is aimed at reaching a much larger customer base. ITC Hotels has partnered with on-demand delivery platform Swiggy to offer ITC dining options to customers in the comfort of their home. So this is all about reaching the customers. Okay, so this is what the hotel industry has done. And what did the owner of both, the leading management has to say about CEO of Mr. Anil Chadda of ITC? They are re-engineering our guest experience with zero or low associate engagements, including digital ordering and e-payment solution. And the partnership with Swiggy will assist them in responsibly delivering their unique culinary experience using their advanced distribution network. While the CEO of Swiggy, Mr. Vivek Sundar, is really appreciating this partnership with ITC Hotels, and he's saying customers can now indulge in curated gourmet dishes from popular restaurants of the ITC hotel chain across India through the Swiggy app. Now coming to the challenges part. Lockdown day 71, mixed message ahead. First point, that you have the challenge with the lockdown. Government clear and unapologetic about privatization of PSUs. Okay, during this lockdown, it was announced that the government is going for privatization. And then third, most talked about boycotting the Chinese product. And finally, less than 4% of COVID-19 patients in India have insurance. So these are the four challenges, and I'd go quickly through it. India is facing an unprecedented economic crisis where some of the safe and traditional jobs are under the threat of being axed, even as India breached the 2 lakh mark with the highest spike of nearly 9,000 cases in a day. Second, India's IT sector employees aren't just battling the economic repercussions of COVID-19, but also artificial intelligence-based platform, automation tools, and other digital technologies. Third point, the country's top 5 IT companies providers have hired fewer people over the last 5 years, thus impacting white-collar employment. Amid these challenges, operational costs have more than doubled, which can lead to permanent closure of several thousand stores. So this is the first challenge. Government is clear and unapologetic about privatization of PSUs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had announced that there will be a maximum of 4 public sector companies in strategic sectors, while state-owned firms in other segments will eventually be privatized. And we know that privatization is difficult to under these circumstances during this COVID time, but we want to be absolutely clear and unapologetic about what we want to do. All non-strategic PSUs will be sold when we can do it. It's not lack of intent that will hold us back. This is what Principal Economic Advisor has to say. Finally, labor laws and others in 10 commandments, we are going to change it. So we are changing it in very peculiar way. We are actually going to tighten safety and working conditions law. We are actually introducing nationwide minimum wages. So it's not entirely, as some people may claim, tilted against the labor. That is what, again, principal economic advisor on behalf of the government has to say. So new labor laws are going to be introduced. That is another challenge, but government is ready to take that challenge. Okay. When we talk about boycott China's product, smartphone, the third point, like, let's boycott the Chinese product. But is it possible right now? India needs to introspect. Yes. So in the smartphone sector, the market size is 2 lakh crore, while the Chinese product has 72% share. So is it possible to substitute Chinese? For very difficult in smartphone sector. Chinese brands dominate every price segment and are way ahead in the research and development. If we come to the next, telecom equipment, market size is 12,000 crore, while the Chinese product has 25% share. And is it possible to substitute them right now? Doable, but very costly. Telecos could see 10 to 15% rise in gear procurement cost and loss attractive vendor financing option if they opt for US and European suppliers. So that is another challenge. Third, television sector. Market size is 25,000 crore. Share of Chinese product is 42 to 45% for smart TVs, and for non-smart TVs 7 to 9%. Is it possible to substitute? Possibility is there. Doable, but expensive. Alternative to Chinese smart TVs are 20 to 45% costlier. Let's see the home appliance market. It is 50,000 crore market with 10 to 12% presence of the Chinese product. And is it possible to substitute? Easy now, but if large Chinese brand enter with much cheaper products, then this may change. So in home appliance, it is easy. Auto components. Market size is $57 billion. Size of Chinese product is 26%. And is it possible to substitute? Tough. Although China accounts for around a quarter of supplies, alternatives domestically or globally will be hard to find. You cannot find the alternative to China right now immediately. Sixth, internet apps. 450 million smartphone users are there. Market is there. 66% of the people out of this 450 million smartphone users use at least one Chinese app. And is it possible to substitute? It is easy. But only if Indian users can give up addiction to like of TikTok. Domestic alternatives have been failure so far. So TikTok like thing, people are so addicted, you can see. So it's very difficult. Solar power, 37,916 megawatt of market size is there, and 90% of it is owned by share of China product are 90%. And it is almost impossible. Domestic manufacturing is really weak and other options are really costly. 8th point, steel. 180 metric ton of is the market size of steel. 18 to 20% of the share of Chinese products. It is doable but tough. Finding similarly priced alternatives to some product lines may not be easy. And finally, pharma and active pharmaceutical ingredients. $2 billion market. China has 60% share in it. It is very tough. Other sources. Okay, less than 4% of COVID-19 patients in India have insurance. So, there have been 100 deaths reported previously, which was only 2%, 4% of the people who are getting admitted. And, only 4% of these people have the insurance. So India has another challenge that they have to bring the people under insurance, and that can really help for the proper treatment ahead. So what are the opportunities? Albert Einstein once said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. So the first opportunity is an outsourcing hub. The global economic slowdown will mean that first world economies such as the US will be looking out for low cost outsourcing solutions, whether it is IT, finance or non-core items, and India can rise up to the challenge. Second, supply basket. Globally, buyers have already shifted to India to source ceramics, home, fashion and lifestyle goods. The drive to look for alternatives can be beneficial for India to enter multiple trade channels as a supplier of raw material and manufactured goods. Third, a shift in manufacturing. Around 1,000 foreign manufacturers want to relocate their production to India, a country they see as an alternative to China. Reportedly, many are already talking with the Indian government for production in a wide range of sectors, including electronics, medicine, and textile. And impact would be infrastructural development around manufacturing facilities and a boost to employment. Fourth, supporting the cause. This year, government has proposal to hike import duties on more than 300 products, such as an increase of 30% in furniture import from the current 25% price. This can provide an opportunity for local production to break out within the market, especially OEMs, SMEs, and even the ever so verified handicraft industry of India. And finally, coming to my last slide, COVID-19 could be opportunity for India to speed up Ayushman Bharat. This is what even WHO chief has to say. If this is the time, this is the biggest insurance, healthcare, primary healthcare and community engagement in the world. And this is the right time when the government can actually expedite bringing more and more people under this scheme, because this vision is to bring 500 million beneficiaries and provide coverage of rupees 5 lakh per family per year. So this is the right time, and this will really help India to fight this pandemic. So coming to this last, let's together as a mission, the India can really fight back and get its growth back. That is what Honorable Prime Minister has said, using intent, inclusion, investment, infrastructure, and innovation. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the organizing committee. Thank you all the dear participants for taking out your valuable time and listening to me on behalf of Surya Veena Adarsh Niketan Trust and my project.
Professor Dwivedi, may I please intervene for a minute? Just a minute. Yadav ji, please. May I request Mr. Rashmi Ranjan, sir, I have your bio which you have sent us on mail, but incidentally it was not containing any email ID. Lot of our participants are requesting for the email ID, and maybe if you want to share a contact number, it is up to you. But at least I think it will be grateful on your side if you can just type your email ID in the chat box and everybody is able to see it.
Oh, thank you so much for this gesture. I really appreciate. Thank you, sir. I'll do that.
That will be great on your part, sir. I can see a lot of requests for contacting you. Okay,